Alright, so the last time that you may have seen this plot, it probably looked a bit different. Over the past probably week and a half or so, I've been taking the height of cut down as far as I can possibly get it. The reason for that is really just an experiment that I would like to run personally and see how far I can get this ryegrass down and see what kind of texture it looks like and all that stuff when you get it down to a very, very low height of cut, which I've always had it about 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch as far as the height goes when I've been doing my reel mowing. But what will it look like when it gets down to those really lower heights of cut? I've been working on that. I've been setting my mower basically to the ground as much as I possibly can. And you'll see here some of these lighter spots, just basically scalping at this point because I had this grass up at 1.5 inches. So going down to about, 0.3-ish, somewhere in there right now, is definitely stressful. And that's the reason why I'm gonna do some different things today to help this process along and try to accelerate getting this thing back in shape. It's a small enough plot that it's a good way to test this stuff. I could always redo this in a matter of days, honestly, so not a huge deal. I'm pretty much down to the crowns of the plant now, which just means that we've cut down to the bottom part of the plant that's coming out of the ground, and it has to regenerate some leaves out of there and start to get used to that, and we'll see what happens. So I wanted to aerate this pretty heavily just to open it up so that I can get some top dressing out of this, hopefully. This soil right in here is actually fairly sandy, and so this breaks up fairly easily as long as those cores aren't too wet. So I'm gonna try some things today to put some of that top dressing back in there. And then also, if I decide to go to sand, I like to do an aeration before I start putting that sand onto there, just to try to incorporate it down into the profile a bit. So we'll see how that works today, and not windy at all again. So I picked up all these cores, but you can see here, got most of all of the soil off of there. This is pretty much just the root system that's left up by the top. So that worked well. You just don't want to let these dry out too much, or they're just going to be very difficult to break up. So for those of you who might not know, I started Lawn Supply Company just a couple seasons ago to bring some unique options direct to homeowners, and all that stuff's available on my website. I really don't talk about it a whole lot. I know that I should, but today I'm going to use a specific product out of that lineup, and it's called VigORR. This could be used as a liquid starter fertilizer if you would like to, but today what I'm going to be using it for, and also what we really developed it for in addition to that starter fertilizer, is stress recovery. I can't really think of a more stressful situation right now than taking your grass, chopping it all the way down and cutting it down as low as it can possibly go, and then coming in and doing this process that I just did today. So it's in a stressful state right now. I want to try to accelerate that recovery as much as possible, and that's exactly what VigORR is really intended for, in addition to that starters. So I'm going to spray this down today at the high rate, which is going to be 12 ounces per 1,000 square feet. So I'm going to get this in a sprayer, go out there and spray that, and we'll talk about the rest of this process today too. Okay, so I got the fertilizer sprayed. Next step that I did was I did a light overseed of my perennial ryegrass on here. Same stuff that's already down, but after the aeration and taking some of those cores and putting them back down into the soil, I noticed a few gaps there in between the grasses, and these would recover pretty well and start to fill back in. But ryegrass is not a spreading grass. It is very good at putting out a lot of shoots off of a plant, so it definitely would thicken up, but I want to try to get this thicker in a more accelerated way. So light overseed, and then it's still fairly bumpy just because that top dressing isn't going to do a ton of work when you want to get this all the way down as low as I do. Now if we were keeping it up a little higher, you probably would not even notice, but because of how low I want to go with it, I need to get lower, and that's where the sand comes in. So using mason sand on top of here, start doing a sand cap. Sand is going to kind of move itself down into those places. It doesn't break down like soil does, and so it is a better leveling agent. But once you start on the sand process, you don't want to put topsoil back on top of here or other material. You just want to keep that sand as your top layer from now on. Pretty light layer of sand on here, but I'll come back once things start rejuvenating. Probably do another top dressing in 2 weeks or so. We'll see how it all goes, and we'll see how it grows in.